Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Mondays Down South. As you can see, we're missing one of our usual three, but that's okay because we got a last minute fill in with one of our favorites returning guests in Mr. Marty over there. So, Dolphins fan representing. I think he picked.
Jets.
Oh, Jets.
Jets.
Dude, you're
Even-
already hurting my feelings here, man.
I knew you were a Jets fan. But we also had your other buddy come on who's a Miami fan with Tua. So it's, you got to give me a little credit here. But you know what?
That would have been awkward if true side. After
No
that,
credit
Colts
to
game.
Dolphins fans ever from me.
Well, you know what? It was a great week for me from Dolphins fans because my Colts finally got a dub, and I can thank the Dolphins for that one.
We all won. When does that ever happen?
What's up?
We usually just have a podcast of guys with awful NFL teams, but we're 3-0 this week. I mean, the Jets and Washington football team also won. What a world.
Great week, but I would not call my Colts awful. Let's be fair here.
Yeah, I said usually because we got Zach and myself, but yeah, you know, most of our teams, I should say.
I think Marty picked the perfect week to come on though, because this weekend I kid you not, before Marty even decided to come on, I was watching the games this weekend and I was watching the Jets, and I've been a huge Zach Wilson truther from day one, and that was his coming out party, man. Like I sat there and I watched that game, and some of those throws that he was making, I was blown away. I kept showing my buddy that I was with. I was like, these are throws that half the NFL quarterbacks I don't see make on a normal basis. I mean, he was slinging it like to the sideline to sideline, like hitting people in stride, like coming out of bounds. I was like, Wilson went out there and looked like a true pro this weekend, and it was so fun to watch. And I'm even more excited because he beat the Titans. And as a Colts fan, like, by no means did I expect the Jets to go out and win that game, but that was so fun to watch Zach Wilson. I think that was his coming out party. I think he's only going to continue to have great games going forward. Like, he just has something special about him. I'm telling you, like, I don't want to make it's bold to make Mahomes comparisons, but some of the throws that he makes with like his arm strength and like how quickly he releases and gets the ball like 50 yards down the field is very, very rare that you see that. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Patrick Mahomes, and now Wilson, like that's the guys that I see that from. So what an amazing game. Like, what a game from Wilson. Shout out to the Jets for beating the Titans. I'm going to kick it over to you, Marty, and let you talk about your squad, man.
Yeah, so I agree with you a lot on seeing Wilson's arm and seeing his accuracy. And, I was talking to Evan prior to us getting on the cast, and I really do think it could be a showing of what he's capable of. I think there's a lot he needs to work on as far as his pocket presence. That's one thing that I noticed. He rolls out a lot, holds onto the ball a little too long, but once he gets it going and he has, actual receivers to throw to, like, Jamison Crowder's out there. Corey Davis hadn't really shown much for what we paid for him, but I think maybe he'll make his presence known once Wilson's getting more comfortable. And then, having a new coach and a new quarterback's never an easy thing to come off of, but a win's a win nonetheless. And I'm happy to see a little bit of progress. So hopefully it can keep showing this season.
Yeah, it's good to finally see the upside we knew he had. And then like you said, it's like, can he be consistent with it? And it's all, I mean, obviously in a perfect world, you'd almost want him to sit a year, kind of like Mahomes did, but he didn't really have that luxury. So we'll just see if he can build some consistency. But yeah, it was good to see some of those throws that we knew he had in him, and he hadn't really been able to unleash yet this year. But
and a lot, another thing is a lot of these interceptions you see that are thrown, a lot of them are not his fault. I mean, a lot of them come down to the receiver not being in the right place, maybe it being a tip drill and the DB just happening to be there, linebacker happening to be there. And a lot of them aren't his fault, and I'll give him that much. But one thing I do want to see is just a little more presence in the pocket, which I think comes with time. And I think he's got wheels too. I mean, the guy's avoiding sacks left and right. So we can get him a little more brave, just stepping up a little bit, trusting his line, which is hard to say when you're a Jets fan. But, it'll come with time.
I know we're only 4 games in, and I'm with you, Marty, like, because I have seen like a couple of those turnovers are more unfortunate circumstances than rookie mistakes, and it happens. I mean, you're adjusting the pros, like you get more tip balls and guys getting their hands on the balls way more than you do in college. So far this weekend, what was crazy was we watched all five of the first round rookie quarterbacks play this weekend. Trey Lance wasn't supposed to, but Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt and he got to start, and everybody else started. That's pretty epic to see all 5 of those guys 4 weeks in play. Out of all of them, out of the 4 games we've seen so far for each of those teams, I think Wilson's had the best game out of all of them. And I mean, it's only 4 weeks, so it's a small sample size, but that is definitely the best game out of any of them that I have seen personally, because I haven't, like, Lawrence has had a lot of turnovers. Justin Fields is still getting his feet under him. He had a great game too, so you could probably argue him up there. And then out of the other guys, like Lance still hasn't really like had much of an opportunity. He had a decent second half, but he's got a bit of ways to go. And then Mac, you honestly, you probably talk Matt Wilson had a good game against the Bucks, but I still think Wilson had the best game out of any of them, just watching some of those throws he made.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was trying to think of who the other first rounder was, and I was like, oh yeah, it was Mac Jones, who looked awesome despite a loss, and they didn't put up many points, but which I guess, how did he look awesome when they only dropped 16, 18 points and they lost? But I mean, and again, he's kind of more of a game manager, but Mac looked good. But I was gonna say, as much as I love this rookie class of quarterbacks, a lot of them, slow coming out, especially obviously Trevor Lawrence. I was kind of surprised, or I'm kind of surprised he's struggling so much. Fields, I'm not terribly surprised. There are growing pains there, and even Zach Wilson. But and then I'm looking forward to seeing what Lance does if Garoppolo is still down. But yeah, what do we think about that Sunday night game? Obviously, I was pumped for that, seeing Tom back in New England. It was good. It was kind of good to see him be at times more like emotional, kind of sentimental, and like appreciative of New England, as opposed to like being all fired up and trying to, knock the doors off them. And give Belichick credit for a good game plan, as I think, is no surprise. But another great Sunday night football game. I'm glad Tom was able to sneak it out, but I'm also glad it was a really close game. And to be honest, if that field goal is another foot to the right, then Tom would have just led a game-winning drive and won the game anyway. But what would you guys think about that one?
Go ahead first, Marty.
Oh yeah, Mac Jones, man. That's the first thing I thought when y'all mentioned the game was, the funniest thing to me was Josh McDaniels running that offense, and then Mac Jones, quarterbacking it when, Tom Brady's probably seen all that a million times in his career in New England, because let's be honest here, that's his playbook. I mean, that's the stuff that he's probably seen and run, and he's probably on it. They had to game plan all week just against what Tom Brady does and what he did to create that Patriots dynasty there. So switching up that game plan, props to Belichick, props to McDaniels, and props to Mac Jones for making, a game that could have been a blowout, a really close one, because when Tom Brady does what Tom Brady wants to do, it's not fair to anybody, because of his, just his experience at that level is just uncanny. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, this is why I didn't want to bet the spread. I just knew that like both sides would have a chip on their shoulder. Like, I really felt strongly that Belichick was going to come out there and have a great game plan. I didn't expect it to be as low scoring, but I did expect it to be a really close game. And honestly, last week I saw that I almost picked the Patriots, just because I really, really like, I was like, Belichick has something to prove, and he almost did. Like that field goal was this close to, I mean, who knows what would happen if Brady got the ball, but that was a game winner right there for the Patriots. And that was epic. Like, I mean, it was a low scoring duel, but at the end of the day, one that like lived up to the storyline of Tom coming home and him and Belichick like really playing that battle with each other. And it came down to the wire, and like just seeing them with that mutual respect that they had was pretty amazing. This is just another reason why I hate Patriots fans. Tom Brady comes home and you boo him. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
well, they cheered him before the game and they booed him once the game started, which I kind of loved. I thought that was the perfect way to handle it, to be honest with you. Just
camaraderie there, but I'm like, you should boo the guy that like gave you like when Manning left and went to the Broncos and he came home to the Colts, people were showering him with flowers. Like, you don't boo the guy that won you your like, who created this dynasty for you and made you relevant, right? Like, I don't know, that's absurd to me. Like,
yeah, I think that was really well like premeditated though. Like, I think they sent an email out on how they were going to handle, like it was at that level of everyone being on the same page in terms of, because I think, to your point, like, no one actually is like booing him in the sense of like, oh, I hate Tom Brady. I mean, maybe a guy here or two, but it's more like it was the competitive aspect of it. He's on the other team now. We're going to treat him like anyone else. And it was like, I was actually pretty, like, it was almost like how Duke, at Cameron Indoor, they give you a sheet before the game on how the chants are going to go. I think something like that happened in terms of how they were going to handle that, because I was pretty impressed that everyone was on the same page with how they were going to do that. But
I bet Brady loved it though. I bet
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, they gave him his props at the beginning when he arrived, and then when it came down to game time, Patriots fans are going to be loyal to their team. So it is what it is.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention, like Belichick, amazing game plan, not a surprise, but really, you're gonna kick that 56-yard field goal in the bad weather with a kicker who I think they said he had like a bad hamstring or something. Now, granted, he knows his kicker and whatnot, and that was a great kick, and it was a foot away, but I thought that was a crazy decision to kick that as opposed to go for a 4th and 3 with how they've been able to pick up really short yardage plays to Jacoby Myers and others. And not only that, but even if you make the field goal, Tom had plenty of time to go win the game himself. I was shocked by that call. Granted, it was a great kick. It almost worked out, but that was kind of an insane decision to me, to be honest.
Do you remember when the Patriots, this was a long time ago, but you remember when the Patriots played the Colts and it was Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning? Patriots were up, I think, like 24 points going, or 17 to 24 points going into the second half. We got the ball back, brought the game all the way back. And at the very end of the game, the Patriots were up and it was the exact same situation. It was a 4th and 2 or 4th and 3. And he went for it. And they catch the ball and it's almost a first down. It was a pass, I think, to Edelman or Welker, but he gets hit and he muffs the ball a little bit. And when he pulls it back down, they mark him like half a yard short. And then immediately Peyton Manning in like 3 plays throws a touchdown to Reggie Wayne and they win the game after being down like 17 to 24 or whatever it is. I just think like since then, I've never seen Belichick do it again. And if Manning did that to him, what do you think his boy Brady's going to do to him if he goes for it and then you give Brady field position in the middle of the field? I'd rather kick the field goal and just hope that it goes in than put Brady in that position in the middle of the field and be like, hey, buddy, you're the guy that, is considered maybe the most clutch player of all time that I coached for 10 years. Let me give you the ball where you only need to drive like 20 yards down the field to make this not even a game anymore, regardless. So I think ultimately like it was the right decision and they were this close to pulling it off. Like unless he felt very strongly that his rookie quarterback was going to go against this great Bucs defense where they were barely able to move the ball most of the game and make something happen, I think it was the right decision.
Yeah. Anyways, new game, Sai, you got another game you want to talk about?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily need to talk about the game, but Rodgers, man, Aaron Rodgers, bro. He again, this is one of those, week 1, things didn't go too hot. And then he came out and since then he's been lighting the world up. Randall Cobb, Aaron Rodgers, what are we in 2010 again? Like those two with 2 touchdowns this weekend to Randall Cobb on some pretty fun routes. Like it's just fun to see Rodgers do what Rodgers does. And I think the Packers are right back to being, a legit threat in the NFC, probably top 3 team in the NFC, in my opinion, in the sense of Super Bowl contenders. And I just want to bring that up because they just beat up on the Steelers. Like it wasn't even close from the get-go. Like that wasn't even a game. And the Steelers are supposed to be, we thought we were supposed to be decent, and that just has not been the case. But the Packers, they're just going to keep like putting on people with the way their offense is flowing right now.
Yeah. I think it's come to the time where Mike Tomlin has to, kind of make that tough decision as to whether he's going to keep going with Roethlisberger or not to keep that streak alive as never having a losing season, I don't think. And I just think that's a hard pill to swallow, when it comes to that. But Roethlisberger, man, he just, I hate to say it, but I think it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of our topics, I think, last week, right? But yeah, I'm just not here for the Steelers. That didn't surprise me at all. But yeah, I mean, the A-Rod train keeps rolling. Marty, another game from you?
Yeah, I'll talk about Monday night's game. I mean, not much in the first half as far as competitiveness with the Raiders, but that comeback that Derek Carr on those drives in the second half, where it was basically all Raiders, and then Justin Herbert. I mean, the guy's a freak of nature. I mean, just I haven't seen anybody play as well and as as composed at an age that he is. I can't remember how long. I mean, it's almost like, I'm ready to start comparing him to the Patrick Mahomes, when everybody was on the hype train back, Hall of Fame contender Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the guy's got it. And, I think they have a really good squad there. My favorite play of the game was Hunter Renfrow. picking off that punt, that fake punt, and making that DB hit on that guy and having him knock the ball out. That was great. But that game was, it's just always a showstopper when you got the Raiders out there and those fans, that base traveling like they do, and it being a Chargers home game. You would have never thought. But solid game overall for a Monday night game.
Yeah, the Chargers are starting to prove it, man. I mean, going into the season, it was kind of one of those things. We love the offense. We know they have a lot of talent. Are they going to have a better line? Obviously, they spent some draft capital on it. And hopefully with a healthy defense, which is always the key for them because they have some talented players out there. Are they finally what's that?
Bosa and Derwin James being healthy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some young anchors on the defensive side. People want to keep talking about that offense as they should. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, obviously Herbert being a beast, and Eckler, who somehow seems to continue to be forgotten every week, even though he's easily one of the best running backs in the NFL. People just don't. He doesn't run the ball traditionally, but man, he changes an offense. But defensively, what's funny is before they got Herbert, their defense is what people used to talk about because they really have some anchors. So that's a pretty complete team. I know last year the problem for Ev was coaching, and it seems like so far that's gone better, and the health has been on their side. So I don't know. Like for me, I genuinely expect the Chargers to be great for years to come, and it's wild to think Herbert and Mahomes are in the same division. That's two youthful guys that that are just gonna be great forever. So or for as long as they play.
Yeah.
You got any other games, Ev? That was pretty wild to me.
Go for it. Yeah, let me pull up mine, see if anything else is.
The Giants winning this weekend against the Saints was surprising to me. I was not expecting that. I didn't even think that was going to be that close. Or at least if I thought it was going to be close, I thought the Saints were definitely going to win. So, I'm pretty shook by that.
The Giants had to win one. They're not an 0-4 team. I think they're starting to come around more to like being an average, maybe slightly below average, but closer to like an average team, which is kind of where I thought they would be. And Marty and I were talking about this and we'll get to our game picks this week, but maybe it's almost like the Saints. Like I think they, could be as good as they were last year, but it's almost like they're just going to be inconsistent. And like one week they're going to look great, and we're going to be coming on the podcast talking about how they're the same team they were as we did after that Pats game, and then they'll have a dud the next week. So it's almost like they're going to be hot and cold, which makes me nervous as their next opponent for the Washington football team this upcoming week, that this will be a hot week coming up. But yeah, it's almost like they're just going to be hot and cold. I don't know what to really make of them. And I mean, the Giants were probably desperate and really needed one, so give them credit there. And Saquon looks back, which is good to see. But yeah, I think it's hard to make sense of the Saints right now, if I'm being honest.
And to piggyback off what you were saying about Saquon being back, I think that's something he showed, that explosiveness that he's had. I think he's gotten his confidence back as far as coming back from that injury, especially with that, that goal line drive that he had, putting that power down on that knee and everything, and using all that ability that he has. I think the only problem that, you see when you have a person that's got that confidence back is utilization, and coaches kind of go in with a game plan to utilize them more, puts them at more of a risk for an injury a little bit sooner than they thought. So I think they got to be careful there, but definitely think Saquon's in the right direction, moving in the right direction.
I couldn't agree. Watching Saquon back to full health is like, it's just fun to watch. He genuinely, I think because of him getting hurt last year, people forget he is maybe one of, if not the greatest, running back recruits coming out of college that we've ever seen. And I think even year one, with how terrible the Giants line was, and with Eli not being good and whatever it was, he came out there and he balled. With a terrible offensive line, all it would take was one reception or one handoff where he'd break out and get 90 yards. Now that the offense is a little bit more free flowing, it's crazy to see. If he gets healthy, we're going back to arguably the best running back in the NFL, especially with McCaffrey hurt. You could definitely argue that he's right up there with Dalvin Cook and McCaffrey. I mean, not that that's surprising. I think a lot of people believe that, but this weekend was just an example of how just dominant he can be when he is at full health.
100%.
It's good to see it. It's really good to see it. But the more I watch that division, it feels like, well, first of all, the football team just needed that win. It felt like they needed it because my understanding is they have a really hard schedule coming up. And if you lose to the Falcons there, I mean, it's early, but that is with how competitive the NFC is. And with
With how the Cowboys look specifically, which is the next game I was going to talk about. The Cowboys genuinely look really good with how well the defense is playing.
Like, I hate to say it for 4 weeks, but it feels like the Cowboys, like after 4 weeks, are just going to dominate that division at this rate unless things.
Yeah, that Atlanta game was. I mean, even with winning that game, I don't think there's a ton of optimism, just based on how the two teams look. But obviously, you needed to win that game. But yeah, Cowboys continue to look good, although they let the Panthers slip back into it without C-Mac and others. But yeah, your Colts, nice win for your Colts. Good to get up the schneid there with a nice clean.
I felt very.
Yeah, I regret not taking that money line opportunity, especially with the Dolphins still being without Tua. Another nice win for the Browns on the road. They continue to win, kind of ugly, but they continue to win. And then Seattle, pretty impressive road win from Seattle. Seems like they maybe started to turn the corner a little bit here. And then also Baltimore, nice win for Baltimore, but they knocked out Teddy. And then the big one we should talk about a little bit here is, as Cy, the biggest Rams truther in the building, the game that cost us the parlay. It doesn't even feel like it cost us the parlay because it was never even close. The Cardinals are like the best team in the NFL now. I don't know, man. They look pretty good. What happened?
I don't know. I think if that game gets replayed ever, the Rams will win it. I genuinely just think the Rams just had a bad week and the Cardinals had a great one. Again, this shouldn't be me taking credit away from the Cardinals because I genuinely believe that they're better than I gave them credit for being. I mean, offensively, clearly they have firepower in every direction, and defensively they played very well this weekend against the great Rams offense. But there was a lot of shooting themselves in the foot from the Rams, multiple turnovers, and they just didn't get the offense flowing the way that I would normally expect them to. I think Henderson coming back from injury, slowly getting eased in. The Sony Michel fumble, the Matt Stafford pick, like just in the first half, they had so many mistakes. And that's just not something I expect to happen frequently with somebody like Matt Stafford. I think Sean McVay coaches them up. Their defense is better than they played this weekend, and I think they were on the field more than they expected to be with those turnovers. Great win for the Cardinals. They deserve the credit that they get for beating up on the Rams the way they did. I mean, they beat them by 3 possessions, so I'm not going to take anything away from that. But I also think the Rams just had a bad week, and I still think, in my opinion, the Rams are the best team in the NFC holistically. Like if you're talking overall, am I picking them to win a Super Bowl? I mean, they're definitely top 3 for me, but I definitely still think that holistically they're the best team in the NFC even after that loss. But you definitely got to give the Cardinals a lot of credit for what they've accomplished, and I wouldn't fault people for hopping on the Cardinals train after what are they 4-0 now? It's kind of crazy.
Yep. I think the 72 Dolphins will be able to sleep soundly, though. I don't see them going undefeated this year, but I do agree with you in a sense of the Rams just had some mistakes they couldn't bounce back from early on, and Cardinals are going to produce when they get the opportunity. Kyler Murray's really shown out and proven that he is elite. I think that going back to the Rams and having a Super Bowl opportunity, I don't think it's out of the question because Matt Stafford just completes that team. He's definitely, better than Jared Goff, and behind that, center and, with Sean McVay calling the plays, I think they're only going to get better. One mistake is not going to be the end of them. So.
Love it. I think that's a good recap. One story I forgot to talk about, we could have done on the top. I was literally before this watching a video. Obviously, there's some drama with Urban Meyer.
Who would have thought? Urban Meyer drama?
Getting his grind on with a young lady at a bar. I guess it was over the weekend since they had the week off or whatever. But apparently, he's completely lost the team and might be fired any week now. And not only fired, but they might be looking into how to fire him for cause. It's gotten to that point that they're just think it's completely, beyond repair. And the other interesting story I heard from, I forget who it was from, but it was on Pat McAfee shows. I guess when he went, he canceled, the Monday team meeting after this all came out. Because he just according to some of the players, couldn't face them after that right away. And then when he did finally go into, I think it was positional meetings and like apologize to the various groups, like they asked him a couple questions like, oh, where were you? Like, who is this person or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then he gives them like a complete garbage answer, walks out of the room, and all the players just immediately like burst out laughing at him, which he could have easily heard through the door. So it sounds like he's completely lost him and could be fired any week now after just a 4 or 5 week stint back in the NFL here. What do you guys think about that?
That's gonna make their front office look so bad. Like to, not that they shouldn't do it, but just to like be like, oh, we're gonna go get Urban. We have the number 1 overall pick. We're gonna pick Lawrence. We're gonna let him draft Travis Etienne at the end of the first round. Like when they didn't need a running back, we're gonna let him do all this, and then 4 weeks in, we're gonna can him, or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, however long it takes. Like that just feels like it's gonna reflect terribly on their front office. However, if you genuinely feel like there's no repair and like you feel like there's no future with Urban Meyer, which I don't think there is going to be for the Jaguars, now is the time to do it. I think far too often teams like are like, oh, we got to hold on to the guy, so like, for our credibility or whatever, and they wait, and things get worse and worse and worse. When the sooner you get done with it, the sooner you can move on and start planning for what you want next. So if it truly is the case that they're just never going to like repair that relationship, then I think it makes sense to move forward. Plus, I never felt like that was a great hiring in the first place. So, I mean, like I'm biased. Like I was just kind of like, why would you go? You have the number 1 overall pick in a year where, even though I didn't agree with it, a lot of people said, Lawrence is like the next thing after Luck and Manning and Elway, like, as the number 1 overall pick. You have that option. Why do you go with a ex-college football coach when you could have gone with something a little bit more like with more experience in the NFL to coach up this young, youthful group that you have? Like, I just kind of wasn't about that in the first place. But I don't know. I think it's better to move on now. Even it's going to look so bad on the front office stuff.
You know, I think this is the out for the Jaguars if there ever was one, because this was a mistake hire in the beginning. You don't hire a guy with the history Urban Meyer has already, especially bringing him to the next level. I mean, the guy is obviously, he's out of his realm here. I never thought that this was a good hire from the beginning, and now they have an out. I don't know, maybe he regains their trust or however you want to, deem it, and give him another opportunity. But I think if the Jaguars have an opportunity to move on, this is it. I wouldn't be surprised. But he's got a lot of things going on that obviously the team is not his not his bread and butter. So I think they'd be better off without him, and they have a lot of good tools, especially with Trevor Lawrence. And you're making Trevor Lawrence look like this. I mean, something's got to give, and I think this is their opportunity to make a move.
Yeah, I think that's a spot on take. Like, obviously, like Sai said, you got to swallow your pride on this one and admit you got it wrong really quickly. But I think if it's done, you got to do it and move on from it. And I encourage y'all to check out that Pat McAfee clip. I think it was with Mike Lombardi, who was giving kind of the details on it. It was pretty interesting. Just talking about how Urban Meyer and like how in college all he did was just recruit elite talent, and he would just walk to the field every Saturday and know he was going to win by 30 just because the guys he had. He didn't ever have to be like a tactician or anything like that. But I guess should we jump? What's that?
It's similar how Dabo does it now, because he's not really a coach, just an elite like recruiter and leader. And he's got great coordinators to help, right? So these just aren't guys that I would expect to come to the NFL and win games, because any college coaches that we've seen, somebody like a Pete Carroll, for example, actually has a feel more for like coordinating and running a game plan for a game. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just like I have better players than you, because it's not going to happen in the NFL. One more topic, Ev, that I really want to bring up really quickly before we move on to picks, because we had a little bit of a conversation about this before the season started, and I don't think Marty was on that episode, but we had an episode with Marty where we discussed, I don't know, maybe this was even offline, Ev, but we discussed wide receivers in this free agency class, and we were kind of going back and forth about, why are these? My argument was, why are these guys getting paid so much? Like for example, Curtis Samuel was a point of contention for us. Like, I was like, it makes no sense that Curtis Samuel's making this amount of money. It doesn't even make sense that Corey Davis is making this kind of money. Like, Kenny Golladay is making so much money. And now that we look at it, we're 4 weeks in. Golladay finally had a great week, or a very solid week, but I'm thinking of the free agency wide receiver class this year, and it seems like overarchingly they've been underwhelming, right? Like, It's kind of crazy. I mean, there's been so much money dished out to wide receivers this offseason that transitioned to different teams, and it just doesn't feel like any of them have really made any sort of a mark on their new teams. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, I would agree. I think there comes a lot when you move to another team at this level. I mean, you got to learn the game plan, and coming in, getting the bag, that's great and everything. You've played well and you deserve it. But I think to expect complete revamping and making a difference at one position is just not going to happen. There's so much that goes into making these teams, and I think the most I could say is maybe give them a little bit more time to get acclimated. But I agree. I don't think a lot of them are showing their worth. Obviously, Curtis Samuel, he's had injuries, so he hadn't really had much opportunity. But Galladay, I noticed a week ago when they were playing Atlanta, or maybe it was the week before that, but I noticed he was getting really upset because I don't think he was getting as many opportunities as he would like to. Maybe that was against what was the game where Slayton dropped the ball in the end zone?
Washington.
Wow, that was Washington.
When Galladay was yelling at
yeah, I noticed he was getting upset, and I was like,
yeah.
the thing is, you can get upset all you want, but when it comes down to it, you're new to this team and you have to learn your place. You're not you might be paid like the hot shot, but you still got to learn you got to learn the schemes, you got to learn your routes, you got to know how the ball is going to be let go. It's going to be a different dynamic, and I think that's what we need to expect going forward. That these guys are good enough to learn that, but at the same time, it's not going to show through week 5. I mean, I would say maybe more than middle of the season, we'll see more production. But right now, I think you have a better opportunity of getting a fresh mind in with one of these, top draft picks, like, the Justin Jeffersons, Rondale Moores, that kind of team. When you got those guys coming in fresh, ready to learn, clean slate, it's a whole different way of learning, and they have more opportunity to blow up.
That's a great call. There has seemed to have been a lot more success at the receiver position through the draft as opposed to free agent. That's an awesome point. I do think. Certainly right now it does look that way, but I think it's way too early to call specifically on those 3. I mean, I think we knew Galladay would have a volume issue in that offense, but it seems like they're starting to figure it out. Curtis has only played 1 game, and that was coming off, he wasn't 100% healthy, and so I think that's certainly a TBD. And then Corey Davis, Marty, you mentioned.
We can just move to the next topic. It's fine.
Well, I was surprised because I actually thought now he's been inconsistent, I guess, but I kind of just look at box score stats, and you were talking about how many balls he's dropped and make Zach look bad. So if that is the case, then maybe he's not worth the money. But I guess I'm more impressed with his ability to actually be able to separate and get open. I think was more my concern can he be an alpha in terms of getting
his route
open
running
against...
ability is his route running ability is top notch. But when it comes to, like I said, new coach, new quarterback, new schemes, different team, I mean, you're not getting Ryan Tannehill tossing you the ball anymore, and you don't have a secondary receiver to go to like a AJ Brown to look at. It's a lot more being that number 1 spot, so to speak. And I think he has an opportunity to show out. But right now, I think it's to put it to what Cy was saying, we just haven't seen it yet, and I think we need to give it more time. Maybe, but who knows?
Basically, the reason I brought it up is what Marty hit the nail on the head with. I just brought it up really quickly, essentially to say that these skill possession players on offense, whether it's running back or wide receiver, unless it's the elite of the elite of the elite, and the very rare opportunities that you get to either trade for them or pay for them at a really high price point, I think I'm very much now on board of what we were just talking about with the draft seems to win that every single time. You can get elite wide receivers and running backs in the 2nd round of the NFL draft without having to pay that ridiculous price premium and develop those guys, rather than pay these absurd amounts of money, because the market just keeps getting higher and higher for skill position players. But for guys that haven't proven that they can be number 1s, even though they get paid, right there, 1B kind of money, which it seems like it just hasn't worked out that way. So that's the reason I brought it up. But
Washington football team's a great example. I mean, Terry McLaurin is looking like certainly a top 10. I mean, and every week he seems to get even closer and closer to even higher than that. And then you have Curtis Samuel, who's the one making all the money, but hasn't been on the field, and we'll see. But even then, he's not going to be on Terry's level. So
the only one that I can think of, maybe DeAndre Hopkins, has been the only exception to this whole thing.
And he was 2 first-round picks for him. You know what I mean? Rare occasions where those kinds of things come up. Yeah.
Sweet. Let's jump into picks here. I can drive this week. Should we screen share this week maybe with the little slide we've got. I know we usually don't actually share the screen, but I've got to follow along to type along anyway. So we'll give the viewers that that vibe as well. Looks like we gotta insert Marty here instead of Zach. Recapping
Get out of
last
here,
week.
Zach.
Recapping last week, I completely bombed last week. 7-9. Looks like 9 favorites won. Cy and Zach both did well. Zach 11-5, huge week. Cy 10-6, very respectable as well. Parlay, we actually ended up picking 4 games because we included the Thursday night, so we kind of did a double parlay with a 4-game, including Thursday and a 3-game on Sunday. 2-2 on the week since we lost the Thursday, and then went 2 for 3 on Sunday. As Cy mentioned, or as we talked about, the Rams one is the third that held us back a little bit there, but let's keep working at it. Season standings, I think I'm back in last after this horrendous week. Zach remains handily in first. Some of my math is definitely wrong down there at the bottom, but the 64% and 63%, there's no way that's right, but it looks like Zach's still in the lead. We'll have to look at that again before it makes the Instagram. Thursday night football, Rams at Seahawks. Rams -3 over under 54.5. Marty, let's get it started. Who you got?
And y'all are not going to like me for this, but they're playing in Seattle and they got the 12th man. I'm thinking the Seahawks take this barely. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that the Seahawks, it's going to be a high scoring game, but I think the Seahawks are going to etch them out by a field goal.
So, and as you say that, I meant to mention I'm revising my strategy here after my abysmal week. So I'm actually, before I even look at the lines, I'm kind of doing the, how do I think these two teams compare on paper? And then I add 3.5 to the home team. And I'm going to take Seattle money line here as a money-making opportunity as well. I think this is kind of a flip the switch game though, where Seattle looked good last week and then it'll flip and the Rams will look good and win. But I think -3 is too many points to the Rams with how Seattle's playing and considering they're at home. But I know who Cy's picking, so.
I got the Rams.
All right, Marty, you get to go last on this one. Your Jets at Atlanta playing in London. It'll be about 9:30 start on Sunday morning. Atlanta is favored by 3 on that neutral site. I'll start it off. I don't like that -3 number. I think these teams are pretty even. Coming off a nice win for the Jets. I'm going to take a Jets money line opportunity as a value play at about +130, I think it is. Cy, who do you got?
This is a tough one. It's like technically this is a home game for Atlanta, but it's in London. The only reason I'm taking Atlanta is because they have a veteran playing overseas. Like I think it's gonna be a weird situation for Wilson to go across the border and play a game against Atlanta. So I'm gonna take Atlanta. Admittedly, they've looked a little bit better the last 2 weeks too. So I think it'll be a close one, but I got Atlanta, and I got them winning by 3. I think it's gonna be even.
Calvin Ridley are going to absolutely destroy that Jets secondary. So I'm gonna take Atlanta covering for sure.
All right, Denver at Pittsburgh, first 1 o'clock game. Pittsburgh is only getting 1 point at home. 39.5, super low over under. Teddy Bridgewater probably out. Cy, who do you got?
Pittsburgh covering.
Marty?
Oh man. See, you're making me second guess myself, Cy. But I think I'm gonna have to.
I'll tell you why, Marty, because Bridgewater's out, and we talked about this last week. The teams that Denver has beaten, not that this gives Pittsburgh a huge benefit, but the teams Denver has beaten before this week when they were 3-0 were combined record of 0-9 coming into this week. And then they played the Ravens, and even with Bridgewater out, they got blown out of the water. And I think Denver's got a great defense, but ultimately, I just think holistically, like their offense just isn't going to be able to do much against Pittsburgh's defense, especially on the road in Pittsburgh. So
yeah, I think the home field advantage is what kind of takes the cake for me here. So I'm getting Pitt as well.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. As much as I hate Pittsburgh, because Denver's got to go across the country here too, which I always hate. But Detroit at Minnesota. Minnesota's getting 7.5 at home. 49.5 is your over under. Marty, you want to go first here?
Yeah, I think the obvious pick here is going to be Minnesota. I mean, I think Dalvin Cook's going to have to get a bounce back game, and I think this is the one to do it in.
Yeah, Minnesota. I'm just debating. I think they'll cover.
Yeah, I think I have them covering as well, but I think that number for me is
That
exactly right.
-7.5
Yeah.
is tough.
I think
tough.
that's the right number,
It's
to be
Minnesota,
honest.
though, so that's what gives me more
Right.
confidence.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was telling Marty before. I got to remember the home three. You got to remember to give the home three. So I think that it's a high number, but I think that's the right number. Green Bay at Cincinnati. Green Bay only 3-point favorites, but again, this is on the road, which I think that's a fair number. So I have Green Bay winning, but not necessarily covering, although it is a low number. But yeah,
Me.
either way, yeah.
Yeah, I've got Green Bay covering for sure here. I think Joe Mixon being out is going to be a big hit.
Good call, Marty.
Believe that it's only -3. Like, I understand it's in Cincinnati, but are you telling this is telling us that Cincinnati and Green Bay are even on a neutral field?
No, it says 6.5. You got to go the other way.
What? Oh,
it says they're about a touchdown better, which
and I was like, what? That makes no
Yeah.
sense. Even then, I fully expect Green Bay to cover the spread personally.
good call without Mixon, Marty. That makes me change my tune a little bit. Well, they can tear up that secondary, but
Your old football team guys are going to be taking over this week.
Samaj P. Ryan heads up on waivers, everybody, if you need a desperation play this week against that Green Bay bad defense. Miami out Tampa Bay. Our boy Lou, they need a win here. It's going to be tough, but Tampa Bay is getting 10 points at home. 48's the over-under. Cy, you want to go first?
I'm not going to take them to cover just because 10 is a lot. And we've seen recently that they've been getting high spreads and it just hasn't been working. But I'll take Tampa Bay to win. I think 2 is out another week, right?
Probably, yeah. I think that number is way too high, and defending champs never cover. Marty?
I'm going to have to disagree and say they cover. Jacoby Brissett and that offense looks absolutely atrocious. I love you, Lou, but let's be real.
I love it. New England at Houston. New England's getting 9 points on the road. 39.5 is a really low over-under in that game, which leads me to believe they just don't think Houston's going to score. I'm going to say New England wins, but does not cover.
I think Houston's shown a lot of tenacity with their teams, but I think you just can't beat Bill Belichick and that scheme, man. He's got it down, so I'm taking New England.
I just want to say last week I was cracking up because the Bills had one of the biggest spreads we've ever seen. It started at like 17.5. I think it went up to 18.5. And not only did they cover, they doubled the spread. They won 40-0. With that being said, I'm taking New England. I'm not going to take them to cover because I just think that there's no way Houston can it would be shocking if they went and didn't score any points again this week. And I don't expect New England to win by a guaranteed 10. So I'm going to take New England to win, but not to cover.
We saw we had a Trubisky sighting as well.
Indeed.
Mitch, they won by a lot when Mitch gets into the game. All right, so I start us off. New Orleans at Washington. New Orleans is about 2-point favorites, depending on the book you look at. 44.5 is your over-under. Who do you have in this one?
I'm going to take New Orleans to win, and if they're winning with the 2 spread, I'm going to just take them to cover because 2 is too
right.
I am actually going to go with the home team here. I think WFT takes it by a field goal.
Yeah, this is one, again, with my hot and cold theory on the Saints. This would be a hot game, so I kind of feel like they're going to win and cover, but I don't think they're 5.5 points better than us, as bad as we've looked, and eventually Washington's going to have to figure something out on defense, so I'm going to give part of that's just being biased. I'm not going to pick against my squad, but I'll take Washington to win. And Philly at Carolina. I'll start this one off. I like this one quite a bit. Carolina's -3.5 at home, which says these are even teams on a neutral site. I disagree with that. I don't think Philly is good at all. They've looked awful lately. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have an awful game against that defense. Although I guess Horton's out now, but I like Carolina to cover, especially coming off a loss at Dallas, even without McCaffrey. Marty?
Yeah, I mean, this is Carolina by far. I think Philly's got a lot to work on, so I'm going to take them and take them to cover.
So they're almost saying is even with Carolina being.
They are. This is them saying it depends if you give 3 or 3.5, but they think these teams are equal.
McCaffrey, this is an easy cover, but regardless, I'm going to take him to cover because that Darnold DJ Moore connection looks like something special.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
too
it's
low.
amazing.
Tennessee at Jacksonville. Tennessee is only 4-point favorites. They are on the road, but is that them getting disrespected coming off that Jets loss? Or is that with all the injuries they had from that Jets game? I don't know. The over under is 48. Marty, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you got to look at the offensive line injuries that they took last week. I think that's going to affect them a lot. I still think they're going to pull it out because I think they'll have AJ Brown back at least. Not sure about Julio, but if Tannehill gets his boys back, he should be fine.
Sai?
I mean, I have Tennessee winning, but I'm not going to pick them to cover. I mean, they just lost the Jets, and like we just saw what we picked Cincinnati to cover against Jacksonville. That didn't work either. So I'm not going to take that. I'm just going to pick Tennessee to win straight up.
Yeah, I have no trust in the Titans. I'll say they win, but although the Jacksonville also has a lot of distraction going on, so it's hard to say. But don't like the cover either. Going to the 405s, Chicago at Las Vegas. Vegas comes back home after that tough Monday nighter. They're getting 5.5 points. Over unders 44.5. I'll start it off. I think that number is about spot on. I think they probably cover it. So I'm going to take Vegas here. I'm pro Vegas still.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money there. The line's perfect. I think they cover. I think that defense is just top notch right now. That defensive line looks great.
I'm taking Chicago money line.
Without David Montgomery, really?
I mean, yeah, I know not having Montgomery is a blow, but Damian Williams is going to be fine as a backup. But
if they have him,
that offense looked really good last week. Darnell Mooney turned up. Like Allen Robinson's getting played. Justin Fields looked good, and the Bears defense is great. I mean, they won by, I think it was like 14 against what was it, against the Lions? Like was that right? 28-14, I think it was.
Yeah.
I think the Bears are. I mean, I think the Bears are better than people are giving them credit for being. I mean, what are they, 3-2 now, or sorry, 2-2 now? Like I'm not running away from the Bears. I think they win this game.
This is an interesting choice, Ty, and I love it. I love it. I'm tempted.
Trap game of the week right here.
Especially on a short week after that Monday night game. This does feel like such a trap game. I love where Sai's heads out on this one. I'm gonna flip. I'm going to Chicago. That means I have to change one later on my board though, but we'll see where that comes into play. All right, Cleveland at the Chargers. This is a really interesting spread for me. Chargers are only 1.5 point favorites, which means they still think Cleveland is a couple points better. I disagree. I'm in on the Chargers here. I think obviously with such a low number at home, I'll take them to cover that pretty easily. I think they're going to get a big win here, even on a short week.
Yeah, same here. I'm thinking they cover easily. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I don't know what the over under is, but I think they definitely make that happen. Is it 46.5? Okay. Yeah, definitely happening.
I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means because this Minnesota Cleveland game was crazy. It was 14-7 was the final score. Like that was so wild to see. I think the Chargers win. It's at home. I think the Chargers holistically are the better team just because I trust them more on both sides of the field. But they're both very complete teams. So it's going to be one of those where it'll really come down to, I think, quarterback play. And I think Herbert outduels Baker Mayfield. So with that in mind, I'm going to take the Chargers to win and cover.
All righty. Giants at Dallas. Dallas 7-point favorites. 52 is the over under. I think that number is exactly right. So Dallas wins. I'll take them to cover, but I think that's a fair number.
Yeah, I don't think this is a tough one at all.
No, I don't think Dallas winning. I'm a little tentative with NFC East games to pick the cover when it's a whole touch because you know this could be one of those where like the Giants
Giants keep it close,
especially with the way Barkley's played, and the Giants haven't really been blown out by anyone yet. So that's why I'm a little tentative about definitely picking Dallas to win by over a touchdown. But I do definitely think Dallas wins the game. They're the better team.
Yeah, I think if you Google cannibalism, it actually just the division just pops up automatically.
Exactly right.
I love it. San Francisco at Arizona. Interesting game here. 425. Pretty big number for Arizona here, 5.5, but that kind of factors in the home points. I have let's start with Marty here actually.
Yeah, I think Arizona is going to show out again, but I think San Francisco has looked good recently. I think with Trey Lance getting the start, if that calf contusion keeps Garoppolo out, I think it's going to be a little bit different. So I'm not going to say they're going to cover.
Sai?
It's tough because I don't know what to expect out of Lance. I mean, if Garoppolo was healthy, I would definitely say the 49ers cover. And even if Garoppolo was healthy, I could consider picking the 49ers to win this. I just don't know what to expect out of Lance's his first like official start if Garoppolo's out. But either way, I'm going to say the Cardinals win, but I say the 49ers cover.
Yeah, I think the Lance thing is interesting because it almost turns you one way or the other from a betting perspective. You just have no idea. Like it could be really bad and it could be an easy cover, or it could be really good and they could win outright. But I'm gonna say Arizona wins and covers. Sunday Night Football, there is no way that this game doesn't hold up the torch of great Sunday Night Football games this year. Buffalo going to Arrowhead. Kansas City is 3-point favorites, which says they are about even. If not, maybe Buffalo is a tiny bit better if you give 3.5 or 4 and not 3. Buffalo has looked a little better this year since week 1. I'll start us off. I'm going to flip the script a little bit and say that Buffalo still isn't quite over the hump. And I'm going to take Kansas City to win. Obviously, I'm not confident in the spread just because I think Buffalo could easily win outright. You know, they're still being given 3 points, but I am going to take Kansas City here.
Yeah, this is going to be game of the week by far. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say that Kansas City has had a lot of problems with their defense, and I think Buffalo is going to exploit that, and I think they're going to take the cake here, even at Kansas City.
Now I kind of want to switch my pick too. I cannot decide on this one. Sai?
This is you know what's funny? The over under is 56.5, and I still want to take the over. Like
that's actually maybe lower than I would have thought. I mean, so
it's the highest. Oh, it's the highest number in all the over unders. I was just looking.
I'd say 79.5 would be more accurate.
Yeah, and I still expect them to score 30 each at least. But I'm taking Kansas City to win. It's at home, and I think the Bills have looked great the last couple of weeks, but Kansas City last week had 5 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes threw for 5 touchdowns, and Travis Hill caught 3 of them. Like I think Kansas City's really heating up on that offensive front. So I think at home in Arrowhead, I'm going to take Kansas City to win. And I honestly, I expect them to win by a field goal. So I'm not really confident picking the spread either. So
yeah. I'm getting really tired of my analytical approach to picking these games. It's so much more fun to just go off your gut. Anyway,
risk it.
Monday Night Football side will go last here. The Colts coming off a big win going to Baltimore. Baltimore is a 7-point favorite at home, which again, it's at home. So I actually think that's a fair number, maybe a tick high. I'm going to say Baltimore wins. And I do have them covering, although I think that's a pretty high number. Marty?
Yeah, I think I agree with you there as far as it being a high number. Baltimore looked a little more complete this week. I think Jonathan Taylor has a lot of good opportunities here. I hate to say it, but I just don't really trust Wentz back there. I don't know, if he's got it all together or not. So I'm going to have to take Baltimore.
So here's the thing. Quentin Nelson's out, which is not going to be ideal against what the Ravens, who always seem to bring the pressure. So that's not ideal. But I think we finally found some offensive momentum, and our defense is just playing lights out right now. They've really played well the last couple of weeks, even though our offense has been struggling. I'm going to take my Colts, actually. And this isn't even just a bias pick, because I picked them to lose. Last week I picked them to win, but the previous weeks I picked them to lose. I genuinely think that we are flowing in the right direction, and I think we need this win more. And I think we'll come out with guns blazing, and I trust our coaching. So
This actually is. I do think Baltimore is going to win. Genuinely, I'm not changing my pick on this one. But 7 points for a team that could easily win that game. I don't think the number's necessarily wrong, but this is like a good betting opportunity. I would have to say.
Evan, I do want to adjust one thing. In fact, we have time. It's going to go back to the San Francisco Arizona game. I'm actually going to pick San Fran.
I love it. Line. He's making an adjustment. I want to make an adjustment too. I'm pulling the Jets pick. I'm going to Atlanta.
There you go.
Minor
call.
one, but
Good man. Good
Sai,
man.
do you want to make any adjustments to your board here? I know you're a gut guy, so I'm guessing that's a no.
Oh my God. I stick to my gut. No switches.
Yeah, I need to be less analytical, I think, after my 7 and 9 last week, but then
Well,
then
if you
this
didn't
week
share the screen, Evan, I might not have changed.
I know everyone has a chance to perfect their board here. I think that's all we got. Any last words? Marty, thank you for coming on. We literally asked you to come on like literally at 8:59 with a 9-ish start time because Zach had to drop last minute. So I appreciate you jumping on and giving us
Got nothing going on,
a
guys.
third
Nothing.
guy. I love it. That's what Tuesdays are for,
Anytime.
Brady. All right, boys.
One of many more appearances from Marty if it's up to us, assuming
I
he'll-
love it. I love it, especially if he
I'm in.
keeps riding with our parlays. But yeah, once again, thank you for coming on. Appreciate y'all listening and subbing up. Check us out on Spotify now too, if that's an easier platform for you to listen instead of watch on YouTube. But yeah, that was Mondays Down South.